Hey guys, it's Julian. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how to make exhale style hard techno like Amelie Lenz, Erod, Diane, Clone Kunstler. This style, a little bit more melodic but still hard and ravey. As usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI presets, everything that you just heard in the intro is available right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp for just $5. It's a great way to support me. If you guys enjoyed these videos, definitely go grab it. Plus, you get a great template to work with and make your own tracks out of. And yeah, thanks for the support, guys. Let's dive into the video. Alright, so we've got the track. We're at 140 BPM, and the first thing here is the kick. Now, this kick, as you can hear, it's got a very fat rumble to it. So what it is, it's this kick. Right, just a nice, fat, punchy, hard techno kick. This is one of my own that I made. You know, no processing, we're just letting it shine, letting it hit really hard, turning it up to the right level, and that's really all you need to do. The truth is, I think a lot of people think you need a lot of extra saturation, especially on the kick, when you're making this style, because it's hard techno, so you would make it hard distortion, I guess. But actually, it's better to get like a really just fat, punchy kick sample, and then just kind of like let that be at the right level, rather than, again, having all that extra saturation and stuff, because like, that stuff will get you the punch, but it's really going to like take away the clarity, and it's going to make your sounds just a little bit too crunchy. So this way, you know, it's just super fat and clean. And then we have a bass. So the way this rumble is being made is we're actually using that same kick. Yeah, you can see it's that same hard techno kick 5. But what I've done here is I actually pitched it down just a little bit, and I stretched it. So you can see, yeah, like I stretched it using the warp here. Like I pulled it back, like it started like that, and then we put it back to there. And yeah, so basically what's happening is that's kind of just creating like this big bass wave. I've also gone in here and you can see we have the fade set so that it's getting rid of like the punch of the kick. So if I get rid of all these effects here, so that's what you should be hearing at this stage. Right, so this just creates this like really fat bass. And it's basically just about, you know, kind of getting a little bit creative with it, right? Like, I've done that type of kick a ton of times where you just make the rumble using like the same kick and you just, you know, duplicate it and do all that. I wanted to try something a little bit different here. And I think you can hear it gives you a very different type of rumble that's actually really fat. And is really going to fill up the bottom of your track. So basically what's happening is we have that, which honestly on its own could kind of work as the rumble. You would probably just have to sidechain it. But what I've done here is now I've got it going through the short reverb and a little bit of amp. So that's kind of like what you would normally do to make the rumble really fat. And you just get this like massive full sounding thing. So we got that there. And then it's being low pass because obviously, you know, if we turn that off. That sounds really cool too. Well, maybe like there would be better, right? And then we just have it being sidechained to the kick. That's going to be really important. You want to make sure this is sidechained. And yeah, and then on the group of those, we just have this EQ8 cutting at 33 hertz. I've talked about this a bit before, but actually, you really don't want to let much stuff lower than like 30 hertz through in your track. Because one, you're not hearing it, and two, when you cut this, it actually makes your bass a little bit more airy, and it can help the groove of your track and kind of just make your track sound a bit better. And like, it's a subtle thing, but here's without it. See, it's a little bit too crunchy, and the low end is just a bit too, like, heavy. But then when we add this, we still have plenty of bass in there. You can still hear the big, fat low end. Obviously, you were hearing that the whole time. But now it's just, like, a lot cleaner in the low end. And it's a subtle thing, but you hear that difference that it makes. So then we have the bass thing. So this is just following the chord progression. So we have like our rumble bass, but then also this bass synth. And if you listen, when we solo them, you can still hear each one individually. So that's kind of the key to this. If you're going to do this type of track, you want to have both, because this is really going to make the foundation of the track, right? Like, it still has to be that techno foundation. So you still have to have the rumble bass, and it has to be that same note every time, just like really fat. But then you add in the bass synth, and it has to not clash. So the way you do that is actually very simple. It's just by side chaining, but then also by high passing this. You know, this actually isn't gonna be like that much in the low end. It's more like the mid-range and low mid-range. And for the notes on this, it's just playing this pattern of 16th notes, and it's just following the chord progression. Our chord progression is A minor, D minor, F major. So it's doing that, and then you can see it's this like energetic pattern where it's like da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And that's just octaves. That's all we're doing. It's just jumping up and down the different octaves. So yeah, pretty simple for that. With the sound here, it's made with analog. So we've got a saw wave and we have a pulse wave. You can see that I have turned the pulse width up a little bit on that, so that's just kind of making it, I want to say, a little bit closer to a saw wave, but I think it sounds pretty good. And then yeah, we have a low pass filter on that with a bit of an envelope. We get the amp envelope set like that as well. I have a little bit of vibrato and a little bit of unison. Then we just have some chorus, a bit of echo. You can see, yeah, it's just doing dotted eighth notes. A little bit of reverb, which is really short, and it's not really that much. And then I'm multi-band distorting it. So here's without this. And then with it. So the key to this is that we're splitting it into the high, mid, and low signals. But then also, if you notice, the distortion is always being blended. So you're basically hearing the original sound of the bass, which is already solid, but just with this extra layer of crunch on top of it, basically. And this is a really great way to do it because, again, we're still preserving this fat bass, but it's just sounding that much fatter because we're adding a little bit of sound on top. And I like putting that after the reverb and delay because it tends to make those a little bit more pronounced. Then we just have a bit of side chaining and then the high pass filter like I talked about. And yeah, so then we have this choir. So that's following the same progression as the bass synth. You can see it's the same notes. And then we have this like melody happening up top, which is a really simple one. It's just dun 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 dun. So if you look at this musically, it's three notes. It's the 6th, the 5th, the 6th again, and then the minor 7th. So not really that complicated. It's just like a simple melody, and then that's contrasting against the chord progression underneath it. And that's how this works. So it's just the fact that you're hearing two things at once, I think, that makes this work really well. And for the sound, and this is actually made with this choir. So it's like a live sample. Yeah, you can see I've got it there. I'm using the attack up a little bit on it, just to make it a little bit more like. You can hear it gets rid of that click a little bit, and then we just have a little bit of ping pong delay and a compressor side chaining it to the kick, and that's it for that one. Then we have the 303. So this is pretty simple. It's just playing one note. It's just playing A, right? Like, usually what you're going to do, if you want to have this kind of a melodic track where it's got, like, this stuff. But you still want to do the 303 over top of it, is you're just going to have the 303 play the root note. And then the other key to this is that the 303 is going to be a very simple pattern. We're not doing, like, too much 16th notes. It's not like like one of those kind of 303s. It's just two notes, and I guess three notes there, but very, very simple pattern. And that's gonna be really key, you know, because if you do too much with the 303, it's gonna you're not really gonna hear it, you know, it's gonna just become a big mess. So you really need to keep this simple so that it can play well with the other instruments. So this is just on that little glide there. But yeah, the other thing though is that even though it's simple, doesn't mean that it can't still be kind of complex in the track. if you listen, there's still complexity happening here. Because if you play this against the bass synth, you'll notice the pattern on the bass synth and this, right? It's you can see like it plays right after when that high octave plays. So we're still creating a lot of movement with this because it's jumping off of what the basin is playing. So don't always think just because it's simple notes has to mean a simple track. You can still have cool stuff happening, but every instrument is simple enough that you can still hear it in the track. You know, it's not going to get in the way of other stuff. And actually, if you had made a really complicated 303 pattern here that was like a bunch of 16th notes, you wouldn't be able to even do that. So, you know, simple is always better. But yeah, so for the actual sound on this one, it's just made with operator. I've got a saw wave, and then the key to the 303 is that a lot of people think it's a low-pass filter. It's actually a bandpass filter. So we have a bandpass here with a lot of resonance, and then the key is that you're going to use an envelope, not that much of the envelope. It's only at 25%, and then the shaper here. So here's without the shaper, and then with it. See, when I have this on, actually, so without it, and then with it. So yeah, you can hear it really helps you get that like 303 kind of sound. It really helps sell it. And then I'm just automating the filter frequency. Very simple. And the other key though is when you automate that, you don't want to let it get too high. You can see over here. Sometimes, like if I put it up even further, see, it kind of just becomes like not really a 303 anymore. So you really have to keep that controlled. But yeah, and then I just have, after that, this amp. So obviously that gives you that nice, crunchy, modern 303. You know, I feel like before this, it kind of sounds more like an old school, like acid house record or something like that. This is the secret to get it to really be like that modern, like current, you know, really fat, hyper 303. So we've got that. Then I've got two echoes. So the first one, here's without it. And then with it. So it's subtle, but it's just adding a bit of stereo width. It's a really fast ping pong delay. So yeah, it's just kind of adding like a little bit of spreading the sound out. And then I have this echo after, which is a lot slower. That's doing eighth notes. And that's the one that you actually hear kind of bouncing around. Then we just have a short reverb. And then I actually have two more distortions. So here is without these. And with the saturator, and then the overdrive. So really subtle, but it just gives you that extra push to really like bring it home. You know, it's the stuff that like if you don't do it, you might not notice it right away, but in the overall track, something is going to be missing, and it's not going to quite be fat enough. Then we just have this being sidechained to the kick, a little bit of a high pass filter so it doesn't get in the way of the bass, and then we have this rave loop. So yeah, this is one of mine from my new 20 hard techno rave loops pack. I'll put the link to that in the top of the description if you want more of these. But yeah, so this is one of those, you know, this is like that classic kind of like old school style rave loop. The key here is just mixing it right. Like when we listen, you know, obviously this plus the kick is a lot of what you're hearing. But you still need to make this stuff work, like the main clap snare and another hi-hat. Because you can hear that. All that stuff is just as important as this is. It's not just having the cool sampled rave loop. So yeah, we've got that in there. Then we have this little effects loop here, which might sound pretty crazy and industrial on its own. But basically, this is just like this nice, kind of crunchy effects loop. And what's happening is I've taken 3 different effect sounds. These are all 3 from my definitive track effects packs. And then you can see, yeah, I've just got like, it's a really simple, it's just, you know, very simple little rhythm there. But then what's happening, so I'll show you without any effects. So that's what it sounds like without effects. But then what we're doing is I have actually a bandpass filter on it. And then I'm distorting it a lot. It's also got a bit of echo going into the distortion. So you get that like super big crunchy thing. And what's good about this is that you can, one, kind of make it your own, but also this helps it fit into the track. Because this, without this stuff, it sounds good, but you wouldn't really hear that stuff because it's in the mid-range. And it would get kind of like clashing with the rest of the elements in the track. So this allows us to kind of turn it into something that'll actually fit. Like you can actually hear this in the track. Because it's in the range that there's nothing else happening in the track. And yeah, so then we just have a high pass, and then it's just being sidechained to the kick. Then we have this clap snare. And so the way this is being made is, it's two samples. It's a 909 clap, which I'll show you without the distortion. And then a nice fat 909 snare. Layered together with a little bit of reverb, and then we're distorting it with a pedal and an overdrive. And that's how you get that big, like, kind of snare like you hear in a lot of these tracks. It's just the classic sounds with a lot of distortion and that slight reverb beforehand to really give it, like, the nice punch. And this is going to make it hit a lot better with the kick, right? Because it's really smacking now. And then the last thing here is just the 909 hi-hat. So again, keeping it simple, lots of 909 sounds. This one is just about turning it up and getting it at the right level, and getting the right one as well. You can see I pitched it. A lot of times, like, the pitch of this will even change how it grooves with the track, because it's shorter and it just sounds a little bit different when you pitch it up. So definitely play around with the pitch, and you can see, like, it might make it fit into your track a little bit better. Yeah, so that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, every single thing like that from this video is available right in the top of the description on my Bandcamp. Once again, this is a really great way to support me. If you guys enjoyed these videos, definitely go grab this because you get a really solid template to work with. Plus, it helps keep me going. Thank you so much for the support, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.